Lotus, loads of trouble, usually serious. That's what they say. This is my thoughts after owning 4 Lotuses. So I'm currently on my way to Lotus Silverstone, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But what happened recently was in my Lotus Evora 400 that I'm in now, just over the Easter break, I was driving along and there was kind of a high-pitched squeal, squeak type noise. Then some smoke came out of the engine bay, and then the car ground to a halt. Now it turned out that the cause of this was something that doesn't happen very often. It's actually very rare. Those of you who don't perhaps know, the Evora 400 uses a Toyota V6 engine, which has a ABRAC, I think it is, supercharger, so very reliable unit. But what happened is the air conditioning compressor had seized, and the way that the car is set up, the supercharger and water pump, everything is all on the same belt. So obviously when that seized, the other pulleys were trying to move the belt around, which obviously he didn't like, which is what generated the smoke. And then obviously for safety precaution, the engine stopped working. So I was unfortunately just a little bit out of my warranty, but Lotus are really good and as a goodwill gesture, because I was only a couple of months and only 140 miles since having the last warranty service. They kind of repaired it free of charge as a goodwill gesture. But I had also noted that the air conditioning hadn't worked very well previous. I think it was all kind of linked. They did still find oil in the system, but it had lost a little bit, which they think may have attributed to the air conditioning issue. So they replaced the air conditioning compressor, the clutch on that air conditioning compressor, and the belt. And the reason I'm going to Lotus Silverstone today is I think that the clutch on the air conditioning compressor is a little bit loose. So when the air conditioning is turned off, there is a kind of rattle vibration noise, which hopefully isn't too much of an intimate issue. So when I get to Lotus Silverstone today, they can troubleshoot it. But whilst this happened, and when I was sat on the side of the road waiting for the AA flatbed to recover me, a cyclist went past and he shouted, "Lotus, loads of trouble, usually serious." And it kind of got me thinking, maybe lots of people think this, so I thought I could kind of share my experience after owning 4 different Lotus vehicles, and from talking about that experience we'll kind of, I guess, help you guys perhaps come to your own conclusion as to whether they are loads of trouble, usually serious. So I got my first Lotus about, must be 16, I think now, 16, 17 years ago, something like that. It was a Lotus Elise Series 2. It was in ruby red, and it was an amazing car. I really loved that car. I did quite a lot of work on it myself, like in terms of servicing. Fitted a nice front splitter, Quicksilver exhaust, sounded really good. It was a 2001 model, and I had that for, I think, nearly, just, was it about 4 years, I think. And in the whole time I had that car, I only had one problem, and it was not necessarily a problem per se, more just because I'm a bit fussy about things. There was a slight kind of rubbing, squeaking noise, and what it was where some of the fiberglass body rubbed together. So I had taken it apart, done some fiberglass reconstruction, padded it out, and it pretty much resolved the problem. And you know, I was generally happy with that car. And the only reason I sold it, and interestingly, so I had that car for 4 years. Didn't cost me anything other than just, you know, general servicing costs, and most of that I did myself because it was out of warranty, and you know, I'm relatively competent with that kind of thing. And I sold it, let's say 4 years of ownership, for the same price I paid it for. So that's one thing that seems quite common. Obviously there's not loads of Lotuses around, and they do seem to generally hold their value. I will, I guess, try and take some credit for it. I think I did kind of make smart purchases. But yeah, so that's kind of the first Lotus I had. It was an absolute pleasure, no issues, no big costs. And that engine specifically had a Rover engine in there, which is quite well known for having head gasket failures. So on the Series 1 release and some of the early Series 2 releases that had that setup, head gasket failure was a common issue, and it would set you back, I don't know, about £1,000 or something to repair if that happened. But there's things you could do to prevent and make sure that you kind of weren't getting this mayo kind of substance in the water tank or the coolant tank, etc. So things you could do. So again, I sold that car because the opportunity came up. I was at a Lotus dealership with a friend. He was looking at getting the Exige. I had no plans to get one, but whilst there, someone was looking around my car. They actually thought it was a car that was for sale. They said to me, I really like this car, are you in kind of, is it for sale? I said, not particularly, but you know, everyone has a price. So if you want, I can take your details, I'll contact you, I'll give you the price, and if it makes sense, then we do the deal. So I told them the price, which was the same price I paid for it 4 years ago. They were very happy, and they bought it off me within a week. So after that, I got a Series 2 again, Exige S, so supercharged Exige, that had a Toyota engine in it. Again, fantastic car. The only work I did on that, I did actually, I think I did have that serviced at a garage. It wasn't in warranty, but I think I was a bit busy, so I did some work myself. So upgraded the engine mounts to make it a bit kind of stiffer. I had a Larini Club Sport exhaust that I fitted to that, but in general, again, I had that car for 3 years, I think. Was that? No, I think that, yeah, 3 or 4 years again. No problems whatsoever. Now, granted, I don't do lots of miles in these Lotuses, but when I drive them, it's normally out, you know, for the weekend, go over to Wales or something like that. Again, no issues with that car. So we're talking about nearly 8 years of motoring in Lotus right now, in 2 different, you know, the Elise and the Exige, without any issue. The only reason that I sold my Exige S was because recently had a child, and I wasn't going out as much in it as I used to, because my wife didn't come out with me very often, but obviously now there's 3 of us, that just wasn't feasible. So I did used to go out sometimes with just my son and his little boy, but it's around this time that
to keep left 2 miles.
Sorry for sat nav interruption. You obviously hear the beep from my snooper as well, because this is a specs area, so it's reminding me not to break the speed limit. So yeah, the only reason I sold this car was because the Evora had come out. It had been out for about a year, I think, maybe a little bit longer, and I had an opportunity to purchase a Evora, so the non-supercharged Evora, the normally aspirated version of the car, and yeah, it was an ex-Lotus car. It was owned, I think, by one of the PR directors or something. So I put my Exige S up for sale. Within a week, someone bought it. It was someone that was working at Jaguar Land Rover in car development. They're actually from Spain, I think it was, or France. And again, they bought the car for my asking price. And again, I sold it for the same price that I purchased it for 3 or 4 years ago. So again, I still think I got a good deal when I purchased it, which definitely helped. So now we're talking 8 years of motoring in Lotuses with no real depreciation whatsoever, and the only cost was in servicing and running costs, which you have with any vehicle. So then I purchased this Evora. So this was my first Lotus that was still in warranty.
In half a mile, keep left.
And so obviously I did get that serviced and maintained at a Lotus dealership for the kind of first couple of years. Then I had it serviced by a Lotus independent. By this time, with kids, I just didn't have really hardly any time to do any maintenance and stuff myself, which is why I end up budgeting and taking it to a dealership to have the work done. So again, I had the Evora for I'm trying to think how many years it was now. So I had MOTs. So again, I think I had that for 3 years. I think it must be. And again, I didn't have any issues. Nothing went pop bang. There was no warranty claims or anything. And the only reason I sold that to get this Evora 400 is really 2 reasons. I really like the look of the Evora 400. One of the things I never really liked about the Generation 1 Evora is I think it just looked too friendly, too happy. And different people like different things. I liked the more aggressive look of the Evora 400 when they released it. Obviously it was a lot more money. But after a while I decided, hey look, you only live once. I'll test drive one. It probably can't make that much difference and probably isn't worth the extra money. Someone in the Lotus forum brought one round to my house and took me for a spin in it, and I was like, oh my word, this thing sounds amazing. So again, on the Evora normally aspirated car that I had, the Series 1, I had fitted a Larini exhaust to that and a decat pipe. So again, it sounded amazing. But the Evora 400 just sounded so much better. There's something more kind of special about it, and the performance was a notable difference. And also over the time, one of the things that put me off the supercharged original Evora was it was quite a significant tax increase. I just didn't want to pay loads of road tax, but Lotus have worked on the efficiency and emissions, and so the 400 was actually pretty much the same tax as the normally aspirated car. So in the end, I did decide to part exchange my Evora for this Evora 400. And as most of you know, if you part exchange a car, you never get the value that you could get if you were to sell it privately. But this particular 400 was available. There wasn't many that were this spec that I wanted. And so I decided to part exchange, and so again I'd had that car for about 3 and a little bit years again, and I had about £5,000 depreciation, which I think is amazing. So again, all these years of Lotus ownership, still no issues, and now I've only lost £5,000, but I've had plenty of pleasure over that time. As I know, here I am in this Evora 400. I've had this car now for how many years is it now? So I had it was a year old, I think. Yeah, so about 2.5 years I've had this car now. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the only issue I'd had is this kind of air conditioning compressor kind of seizing up, which looking on the forums and actually speaking to Lotus, it's not a very common thing. So I admit that I was a little bit worried about the cost, because rightly or wrongly I do put money aside for the servicing and running costs, but I don't keep a kind of magic slush fund in case something goes bang and I need to have £5,000 or something. So I was a bit worried about how I was going to deal with that. But again, touch wood, everything seems okay, and apart from this little issue, which I'm sure they can remedy, I've not really had any trouble. And I think that even if I had to pay for it, again, you might say, well, okay, yeah, Dale, but that would have cost you a lot of money. big scheme of things, this being the 4th Lotus I've had, and now, you know, 15, 16 years, that's not a lot of money over that time frame for the performance and everything of these vehicles. So I still think that the Evora 400 is really good value for money. If I think about what else I could buy that performs as well and sounds as good in this price bracket, I just don't think there is anything. Maybe an older 911 or something, but I don't know. I think for me, I'm still a Lotus guy. I hope Lotus continue to do really well. I want to stay around. I guess I am concerned that they're going to start to push more and more into the premium bracket. If you look how cheap an Elise was back in the day, even now they're expensive. And I wonder if that will kind of put the running costs and servicing costs up into a different realm, but we shall see. So yeah, that's kind of my conclusion to this. I don't think it's right that, you know, Lotus stands for loads of trouble, usually serious. I think it's similar in a way where people still sometimes have those negative connotations with Skoda. They are, you know, think it's a Skoda or a Lada thing, and there's all the skip jokes and everything, but you know, they've been owned for Volkswagen for ages. They're fantastic cars. The only thing for me that I'm not, I guess, not happy with Lotus is the fact that they still really don't have a very good coverage in terms of dealerships. So like for now, when you have an issue, if you're going to go to an authorised proper Lotus dealer or service centre, it's a long way. So this is like a 200-mile round trip pretty much for me to get this done. So it's just awkward if you want to pop in to get something checked out that's an intermittent issue. There's a good chance I'm going to get here today and it won't make the noise, or it won't be easy for them to identify, which will be frustrating, because again, you just don't want to be doing 200-mile round trips all the time to just get something looked at. But so that's it. Maybe a little ranty video and I've just gone on for too long, but that's my kind of thoughts and opinions. I don't think Lotus is loads of trouble, and if you do have any trouble, I think in general it's a niggly issue and it's not mega serious. Like any manufacturer, you have your Friday cars or your lemon car, and it will, you know, create some people more issues than not. But I've never had any kind of issues with this. And I think, just thinking about now, the warranty issues I had on my last Lotus was, I don't think I had any. I'm trying to think now. I think they may have changed the chrome lettering on the back because it had kind of faded a little bit. But that, again, is quite a common known issue. And then the only thing I had on this car was when I bought it, the side reflectors had some water in them, so they just replaced those under warranty as well. They actually sent them to me because I said I could fit them myself, and again, no issues apart from this one. So I'd be interested to know what you think. Maybe you've had Lotus in the past, perhaps you've got one now, perhaps you had some bad issues or bad experiences, and perhaps I'm really just someone really lucky and really fortunate, and you think very differently of these cars. Perhaps you think they're rubbish, perhaps you don't think they're good value for money. I'd be interested to hear from you, know what you think, and of course feel free to ask questions or anything that you might have in the comments. Is this Audi just pulls in front of me? But yeah, I am really happy, so I'm going to continue with my drive and enjoy the sound.
Thanks for watching this video. A thumbs up would be really appreciated. If you're interested in other geek type videos, please consider subscribing to Spectrum Geeks. Why not also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And before you leave, why don't you check out one of these other videos that may be of interest. Thanks again for watching.